But indeed, right here we see some astonishing details. Here are the bodies of the Safarov brothers, Hussein and Ziauddin, who died during interrogations, either at the FSB or the investigative committee. These two Azerbaijanis who were sent back to their homeland have been fully examined by experts. And these expert examinations, of course, became a sensation because, judging by the nature of the injuries, wounds, and abuse, the Safarov brothers had their genitals cut off while they were still alive. Yes, well, you understand that the so-called friendship of peoples has always been a lie. Tsarist Russia didn't really play at friendship. At every opportunity, it reminded the non-Russians of their second-class status and the need to obey the great Russians. And this very popular term, prison of nations, as applied to Russia, was not only widely used and common, but also quite accurate. It truly was an absolute prison of nations. Then the USSR got hold of the keys to this prison and filled it with a sweet fog. It began to proclaim an age-old union of free republics. And as for the friendship of peoples, all those swineherds and shepherds, the USSR actually made that a hallmark, a state ideal. And this was a lie. It was absolute hypocrisy on Moscow's part. Well, all the national minorities, as they were called back then, out of fear of tanks and reprisals, were forced to nod along and agree with this hypocrisy. But in reality, the USSR was just as much an absolute prison of nations as Tsarist Russia. The best proof of this is the year 1991, because at the very first opportunity, as soon as the doors of this prison were slightly opened, the peoples ran so fast to escape that their heels were flashing. But a few nations, those that were completely impoverished, very small, utterly intimidated, and forcibly degraded, did not manage to break free from Russian captivity at that time. And it must be said that they are now paying for this because the Russian Federation has practically used up their entire male gene pool as cannon fodder in the trenches. And this most despicable arrogance, of course, has remained untouched to this day, preserved since the times of Tsarist Russia and embodied in the term churka. And we understand that there is really nothing extraordinary about this story of genitals being cut off during interrogation. This is an expression of that particular malice which, to this day, great Russians display at every opportunity towards those peoples whom they consider to be runaway slaves. Well, of course, not all national minorities are killed during interrogations. But apparently the Safarov brothers were remarkable, brave, and dignified people. And this is something Russia has never forgiven and never forgives anyone for. Aliyev, the president of Azerbaijan, also, it seems, became familiar with the protocols as well. But regardless of the established diplomatic protocols, he once again unequivocally confirmed that the unprovoked Russian invasion of Ukraine is undeniably criminal, utterly absurd, and that he fully supports and will steadfastly continue to support the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine. Aliyev also allowed himself a brief historical digression, stating that back in the 1920s, when Azerbaijan was incorporated into the USSR, it was also nothing more than a simple, bloody, and vile occupation.